My name again is Lori Cook. I'm with the American Wood Council, where I'm the Director of Educational Outreach. And today we're going to be talking about designing for the, I guess, new, depending on how you're looking at them, but new ASCE 716 wind loads per the 2018 Wood Frame Construction Manual, or WFCM. The WFCM, for those of you that might not have a ton of familiarity with it, it is a document. I should say, the full title of the document is the Wood Frame Construction Manual for 1 and 2 Family Dwellings. And as you can see in the description here, I'm sure you saw when you signed up, it is a document that is referenced in both the 2018 IBC and IRC. And I'll get into those two references a little bit. The Wood Frame Construction Manual is intended to provide a simplified approach to designing buildings that would sometimes some engineers kind of might call them, quote, ordinary buildings. There are size limits on the size of the structure, both in plan and elevation, but for most of your typical type residential structures, this would be a useful tool. To help make the WFCM a little more approachable, we also have the WFCM Workbook, which you can see the full title of it here, Design of Wood Frame Buildings for High Wind, Snow, and Seismic Loads. And it includes a full-blown design example of a building, of a house, a residential structure, from the roof down to the foundation. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today, is that WFCM workbook. We will be in the Wood Frame Construction Manual as well, taking a look at some of the reference provisions. Today, as you could guess by the title, we are going to be focusing primarily on the wind loads and the wind design. So we won't get into any seismic or any high snow load provisions or any real snow load provisions today. But if you are interested in reviewing it, reviewing the workbook further, there are additional examples, additional design provisions in there that you may find helpful. So I won't spend too much time on the learning objectives. I'll assume everybody took a look at those when they signed up for the program, and just do want to note that the program is copyright of the American Wood Council. So here's a brief outline of how we'll approach things today. I'll talk about the code acceptance of the standards we're going to be talking about, and just a tiny bit of history. We'll talk about the ASCE 7 component and cladding wind loads primarily, because that's where we saw the most change in the wind design provisions in ASCE 716, were those component and cladding loads. We'll talk about our design example parameters. It's a 2-story residential structure, so it's not anything too crazy. And then we'll also go into the prescriptive provisions for some of the wood frame solutions in the WFCM. So the WFCM does contain kind of 2 parallel paths, if you will, to designing. It has Chapter 3, which is where we'll try to spend most of our time today, and that is the prescriptive design chapter. There are also additional provisions in Chapter 2 for design that require a little bit more pencil sharpening, but that's qualified as an engineered approach. So that's something that would, again, require a little bit more calculation. It's not as prescriptive, but you do have more options in Chapter 2 for certain things. So if you're looking on our website, we have been in the process of updating it, so that the page itself might look a little different, but if you're on our website, awc.org, and you go to Codes and Standards Publications, you'll see the 2018 Wood Frame Construction Manual on our website. We do have a free view-only download version of the document available on our website. It is also available for purchase in hard copy format. The WFCM workbook, you can see here, is available for free download in a PDF format. So here's a little bit of a look back. So many of you are probably transitioning into the 2018 IRC and IBC if you haven't already, but most of you probably have been familiar with an older version of the wood frame construction manual in a previous edition of the codes. It has been referenced since at least the 2012 IRC. I believe it was in the 2009 as well. But it's been in there for several revisions, and for the International Residential Code, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy to see why a document geared towards 1 and 2 family dwellings would be referenced in the IRC. And the typical IRC reference for the wood frame construction manual says basically if you design a structure in compliance with the WFCM, it will comply. It is deemed to comply with the IRC. So that makes things a little easier.